Hello, and thank you for inviting me to address you at the World Emerging Security Forum. I want to start by saying that I am an enthusiast for artificial intelligence and what it will mean, this extraordinary and groundbreaking technology, for transforming the lives and livelihoods of 8 billion plus people on the planet and making almost every sector of the economy so much more efficient and productive. So I come to this conversation as someone who wants more artificial intelligence, wants to see more talent applied to it, more investment applied to it. I want it to succeed for all of us. But I am also very deeply concerned about the negative externalities. I'm an American, and we're great at capitalism when we invest our talents and our money to help ensure that companies, especially our companies, are successful and that everybody that's involved gets really rich in the process. But a little secret is that we are also committed socialists when it comes to losses, because nobody wants to pay for them personally. You've got to socialize the losses, just like we privatize the gains. And we saw this with globalization as we drive a process of incredible global enrichment, but the negative externalities, like lots of carbon into the atmosphere and lots of people that lose their jobs, nobody wants to pay for that. Let the kids pay for it. Let society as a whole pay for it. That can be taxation. That's going to be true of artificial intelligence, but much more dangerous than the first period of globalization. It's equally systemic, but it's also much, much faster. And there are therefore a lot more actors and points of failure that are going to be involved and that we're vulnerable to in the process. What specifically am I worried about? I'd say 4 big things. And first, the easy ones, 2 things that you're already talking about quite a bit in this meeting. Jobs and livelihood of human beings. Every time there's a new explosion of technology, we always worry about the people that are in existing jobs that are going to be displaced. And we believe and hope that new jobs and new opportunities and new wealth will mean better things for society as a whole, but that takes time, there's a lag, and who takes care of all the people that are displaced? And what happens when those people are angry, and they're angry politically, and they're angry socially, and they change their societies and their political systems in ways that disrupt our efforts to improve the human condition. The better we can identify all of those disruptions early, and that we can orient resources to try to minimize that damage, the better off we'll all be. Secondly, and also very widely known, but increasingly needs to be widely understood, is the proliferation of dangerous tools in the hands of bad actors. We know that everybody that codes out there wouldn't dream of coding without AI because the tools are so effective. Well, I'm sure that's true of everybody that's engaged in criminal cyber activity too, not to mention the development of bioweapons or lethal autonomous drones and the like. Clearly, this is not just a matter of nuclear weapons with a few countries that could become a few more. This is anybody with AI and the ability to program can be a systemic challenge within the matter of a few years. So we need different kinds of architecture institutionally and regulations, and yes, probably surveillance that will allow us to maintain security while still having a system that is stable and vibrant. But the 2 things that worry me maybe systemically the most about AI are the ones that are harder to get our hands around because they're so much more structural. They're harder to measure. They're harder to identify. One is the big question about whether or not democracies and well-regulated, competitive, free market economies will still function and function the most effectively in an AI-empowered era. We know about how AI can help drive disinformation, but also the concentration of wealth and power in a technopolar world where technology companies increasingly have sovereignty over economic and social and political and security trends in the digital world. It may well be that authoritarian and state-planned economies or monopoly-run oligopolies that used to be democracies function the most effectively in a surveillance environment where artificial intelligence is a dominant driver of wealth, productivity, and power. And the answer to that question, I hope that's not true, but it might be true. And the answer to that question is not decades away, it's years away. It's 1 or 2 electoral cycles. So I'm very deeply concerned that the nature of our newest technological tools might make our existing political systems and the ones that we value the most, that are most important to valuing human beings, very, very vulnerable, possibly even obsolete. Finally, dehumanization. I worry more about people being programmed by algorithms than I am about people's jobs being taken away by artificial intelligence. I'm less worried about computers becoming like human beings, and I'm more worried about human beings becoming like computers. As we spend so much of our times disintermediated by our smart devices, our phones, by our computers and our tablets, by the algorithms that run on those programs and that are driven for profit or political stability and not for human development and well-being. And particularly as our children are exposed to those devices and those algorithms, it's driving their behavior. And it's very hard to replicate a human being in real life. It's very easy to replicate one when they're not acting like human beings, when the people are acting like computers, when they're spending their time with inputs and interactions through those devices, through social media, through those platforms. And that's where we're heading faster, perhaps even than the development of artificial intelligence itself. I think that we are valuable by growing up through nature and nurture, through our genetics, through our families, through our communities. I don't yet know what happens when people develop through algorithm. And right now we are testing those algorithms real time on our societies without any understanding of the consequences. This is the area of artificial intelligence that most desperately requires better understanding, clearer regulation, and more power that is shared not just by the companies and the individuals that control these algorithms, but by society more broadly. I hope that's an issue that you'll be able to take up in your meeting. I wish you success for it, and I look forward to having a chance to chat with you in person. Thank you so much.